Mill Serp Garage, back again, here with you with the Winchester 1886. You know we had to go here. You know we've been riding that Browning train for quite a while here on my videos. And you knew that I was going to have to come in here and throw an 1886 down on the table. I mean, you just knew it. So I might as well just get it over with. Here it is. Is it one of my favorites? Yes, it's one of my favorites. It's huge. It's heavy. It's like a tank. This one's chambered in 4570. The round is like a friggin' torpedo. And they're awesome. And this definitely was a huge step forward in lever action design. And they say that every lever action rifle after this borrowed from it. That's what they say. That's a huge claim. It sounds almost like if you had any interest in Winchester, like stock wise or anything like that, that would just sound like a pompous, ridiculous statement. But if that was made from a historical standpoint, like a historian or a gun person, you know what I mean, then I guess it could fly. But I have heard that before. But it's one of those "it's been said" things. But you definitely do see a huge difference of before and after. I mean, you cannot argue that before this they were all like toggle links at Winchester. At least I'm not an expert with what was going on with Marlin and other. You know, there were of course other companies with excellent lever action designs. Don't get me wrong, but something about Browning, he had this thing. It was almost like as if he didn't have access to real precision machinery, you know, in his shop. He was in Ogden, Utah on the second floor. His brothers were downstairs running the business, and it was like a sporting goods store, and he was just upstairs in the shop cranking away. And it's not like he had this kind of precision machinery that Winchester or Remington had. It was just some guy hand fitting parts. His prototype designs were made out of wood. I mean, it was like the guy was so gifted that he was able to make these things like by hand. And because of that, because of the way he actually designed them that way, that's what lends to this like kind of sloppy kind of feel to them, where they're like, you know, they couldn't be like all these close tolerances because he was working in a very non-precision way, just hand fitting things, you know. But that's what made these designs so reliable and so awesome, is that dirt didn't affect them that much. Getting dirty didn't affect them that much, like firing them and it getting clogged up with soot or residue or powder residue or lead residue didn't do anything to them, just because they had such loose tolerances to begin with that it's almost like dirtying it would almost help keeping it tighter. I think that's a lot about what really set the Browning designs apart, was that their simplicity. Although people say, you hear a lot of people say that Browning's designs were overly complicated, and that's not necessarily true. I think that moniker gets stuck on by a lot of Browning designs that were made well after. Like, I did a Browning BL-22 video here, and the Browning BL-22, it's not like Browning was alive when that was made or he designed that. It's kind of like the name gets stuck to it, and is that an overly complicated 22 lever action design? Oh yeah, try to take one of those apart and put it back together again. I've done it, and it's like the Hellraiser box. It's crazy. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from. Stuff like this is super simple, and he was able to, it's not just that he designed things simply, it's more that he was able to overcome tremendous obstacles that other people were stumped by using simple designs. That's what's the most incredible thing, is that he would take huge leaps forward, and when you'd think that would mean that there was some whole complex thing that he figured out, and then when you would see what he did to make that happen, you would be like, oh, yeah, well, of course. What? Why didn't I think of that? That's the kind of thing. All right, so let's get started. This one, I bought this one. Here's the thing. I'm not going to talk that much about history because there's a ton of information online about this rifle that I could do a live feed here and just sit and watch YouTube videos with you and learn more. I mean, I don't really have a tremendous amount of knowledge on the history. I learn something every time I watch something on this gun. Suffice to say that I could just speak from it from a collector's standpoint of a guy that loves Brownings. We just did the single shot, and after the single shot, what's his name? Bennett from Winchester comes home with the single shot. He bought that from Browning, and you know he's going back to Winchester to manufacture these things. And when he was leaving, supposedly Browning was like, "Hey, check this out. I got something else for you. See if you're interested in this." And he gave him a wood mock-up, like I spoke before. It was a wooden mock-up of the design for this lever action design here. And he was like, "Tell me what you think of that." And that's what really kicked off Winchester and Browning's relationship. Was he didn't just buy this one single shot rifle, go back to Winchester, build that, and then that was it. This is what started an ongoing relationship, is that it was such a fascinating design. The thing about this is it's very distinctive to see these mortises here. Well, first of all, let me show you the whole rifle. It's not like there's anything pivotal with the rest of it. It's huge. I wish I had an ability to like light box this thing like see an Arsenal and really show you it all at one shot, but it's got the side loading gate. Obviously a big exposed hammer. Does half cock. The hammer does half cock for safety. No other safety or anything else. No other buttons, switches, nothing. Just a huge, heavy octagon barrel. A loading tube, a magazine tube underneath. That's full length, the same length as the gun. And a big, huge opening in that muzzle. Now this guy obviously was re-blued. See, when I bought this thing, I could have gone a couple of different ways. I could have gone with one that was all worn and beautifully patinaed. You know I love that, and those look gorgeous. And then there were other ones that were re-blued, obviously, and kind of redone. And that's, of course, less money. And then there's ones, and usually they were redone because they were just so utterly worn that there was just no bluing left. They were like worn smooth. And then there were ones like Hickok had. Hickok's first video, Hickok 45's first video on this guy, which got me into. He's like one of the guys that really brought me into collecting seriously years ago when he first started. And he does a video with this, his first video with this guy. He has a older one now, but you got to look back for his first video. It's a Winchester from 1986. It was like a 100-year anniversary model, and that's the one I wanted. You know what I mean? That's the one that really made me like you know, look for one of these like crazy and really get into it. And it looked a lot like this because it was obviously new, you know. So in my mind's eye, that's what I wanted, but I wanted an old one. So this is a nice combination, and this one's cool because it wasn't like it was all worn smooth. You could see the scrolling here and here. It's deep. It's not like it was worn flat and somebody re-blued it. You know, it still looks sharp, but it makes it look nice. I don't know 100% sure that it was re-blued, but come on, this thing is from 1893. This is an 1893. How could it not be not have been re-blued? But I liked it, the look of it like that. You have a lot of options when you buy these because they were made from 1886 to 1935, the original run. And then there's 8 billion different remakes and recopies and reissues. So go crazy out there on Gunbroker. Look around like a nut. Get whatever you want. This is kind of like what I wanted. An old one that looked really clean. And I didn't have a lot of money, so it was kind of cool that it was re-blued because that knocked the value down. So there you go. All right, I'm bouncing all over the place. Let's get back now to the design. We're back into his design again. These mortises right here, this is what did it. You see how these two locking lugs connected to the lever here? See how those two locking lugs, of course the big long exposed bolt that gets pushed back there, whoops, and it's these two mortises that come up as the bolt closes. See, there's reliefs in the bolt and reliefs in the receiver, and these mortises come up right in between them to hold everything all together. This was so strong that now finally smokeless powder, okay, huge amounts of power for a big powerful rifle, okay, no pistol round kind of thing. This thing could handle big, huge, torpedo-looking bullets like this. Now, as far as bullets, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with this thing. When I first went to shoot it, I had some old school ammo like this, right? No good. This kind of ammo, this is good for your Springfield. But you find old school stuff like this that was used in single shots, no good. It's too long. You could see a more modern ammo, see the difference. These get stuck. Do not use them. It's a pain in the ass. You got to just go out and get some modern ammo and just make sure it looks like, you know, it doesn't look like it has this big, huge tip on it like that. Like it's old stuff, like you're getting surplus stuff. This is one of the reasons where surplus is no good. It would be the new Serp garage. So my first experience was I got some PPU. I actually had it for like a Springfield, a trapdoor Springfield. So I put this stuff in here and was getting this. I was like, what's with this? This is John. Could I call you? John, what's your number? I was looking on my phone. I got to call up John. I got to call up John Brown and find out what the hell's going on. Well, you just have to be careful that the ammo that you buy, I don't want to just piss on PPU because I love them, but you could see it just pulled the edge of my, I'm out of camera, I just pulled the edge of my nail up by doing that, by going like that. See, there's a lip on here. You could hear it on my finger, you could feel it. That lip gets caught on the feed ramp, at least it does on this rifle. If it doesn't on your rifle, fine, but it kind of seemed like there's nothing wrong with my rifle. I think it's just when it goes up the feed ramp and it has to go into the barrel, a lot of these, they're made for single shot kind of stuff, just sliding them into a receiver. And when they had to go up a feed ramp and go along the edge of the barrel, that lip was a no-no. So I found that better was using stuff like this. And that's 405 grain. This is 300 grain Winchester Super X. And if you see, when you run your finger along the edge, there's nothing. It's perfectly molded. And that's what you need. So if you're going to go get some 1886 ammo, pull around that and just run your finger over here, whatever it is. See, Winchester was okay. The Federal was okay. Very smooth. And this stuff like this specialty stuff, this Black Hills ammo. And look at this, this is like hard cast bullets, I think is what that's called. There's like no jacket at all. And these are fine, smooth. That's what you're looking for. So there was one other brand that had a sharp edge like the PPU, so it wasn't just the PPU. There was one other one too, I don't remember the brand. I don't have it anymore, so I forgot. But that's one thing to just be sure of, just so that you know you're going to get reliable feeding, you know. And man, this action, what an action on this thing. It's almost like a distinctive sound, like a shotgun action. But I don't have any kind of snap caps to cycle through here to show you, but it's not like there's much to see anyway. There's stuff going on inside, but you can't really see. I can't take this one apart. It's not like a takedown where I could take it apart and show you what's going on inside. But there were a lot of very pivotal innovations here. There was a finger that did something with as far as picking up just one round at a time and putting it on this elevator just so. Because it was the rounds here, these rounds were longer than anything that had to be chambered before. So to get around this big, on an elevator and lift it up and everything, it wasn't easy. So there's some special stuff going on in there. And here's where I'm not really knowledgeable enough to be able to rattle all that off to you. Here's the John Browning book by Kurt Gentry and Colonel Betts. Props out there. See, we went from the single shot. This is chronological. This is a lever action repeating rifle that's in the Browning Museum, but it was never manufactured. It was kind of like a stepping stone. So it was invented in 1882. He does have patents for it. So what's cool is you can go in and just look at the patents, and it was never made, but it would be kind of cool. You know, they have the patents, which means they have the whole design. It'd be really funny if they just made that thing. Some companies should just make it. The patents have to have expired. But for whatever reason, it was never manufactured. It was like a stepping stone. It was an exposed hammer, tubular magazine, repeating rifle that operated quite differently from most lever actions. But you could look up that patent if you want to look at it. It's 282-839. It was granted August 7th, 1883. So remember, I did a video on patents, how you can go to Google and pull up patents if you wanted to check everything. And the patent for the 1886... it was the first Browning designed repeating rifle to be manufactured. It was the first repeating rifle to successfully employ sliding vertical locks. It's the first of everything. It was the first rifle that made coffee. Here is the patent. It was filed May 26, 1884. And it's 306577. Is that it? Yes. And after this, the rifle after this was the 1890, the 22 pump. So you see, we're filling in all the holes here. We're gradually putting pieces of slate down, which will eventually lead to the path from black powder all the way to modern guns. That's what we're doing here. We're laying down the path. Well, this 1886 is awesome. It's almost like you have to have one of these in a rifle collection. And if you look around, you could find them, and actually some of them in actually decent prices. They're not what do you call it? They're made by so many different manufacturers. I'm talking about like remakes and stuff, that they're not terrible. I mean, I wouldn't say they're terrible. There's some really cool ones out there, and Winchester reissues. So you don't have to go crazy if you're looking and you're seeing $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 for these like really clean original ones or whatever. You know, don't be scared off, because this one I got for a reasonable price because of its rebluing. But when I looked at it and I really said, you know, its originality is there. I don't think the stock's been changed. It hasn't been sanded to crap. Like, the wood is proud on the metal, if anything else. And that's what you got to look for. Just make sure you're not looking at a gun that's all pieced out. As far as you know, it isn't all just pieces of different ones. Just from the look of it, it should look like everything just lines up and matches. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't look like the stock was sanded to crap and that the steel was maybe hit with a buffing wheel and stuff like that. Like, who cares if it's worn? Who cares if it's reblued? If you're into shooting them, if you're into like getting one that could potentially be in a museum or some kind of investment for your retirement, then yeah, you want to look around for one that's really clean, that you're going to spend, you know, like $5,000 on, $10,000 on, you know. And then, oh my God, I got to show you. This is the Winchester book here, right? This is by Mattis, and it's signed and numbered, of course. I always like to mention that. It annoys all the people that know that they're all signed and numbered. Look at the size of this chapter. on the 1886. This is how much of this book is devoted to it. Now, of course, it's going to start showing you all these little things. Look at what you can get with these, like how beautiful some of these are. This is the thing with the 1886, is that if you really wanted to go crazy, you could sell off your whole collection and buy one of these. If you get one that's like rare, one that's got paperwork that was like from Browning himself or something. To Dave. Love, John. And look at this. I mean, there's a lot of these that were engraved and special editions, and here's a skeletonized one to show operations. Yeah, wish I could mess around with that with you, but you know what? If you look around, like I said, you look around online, there's plenty of opportunity to see exactly how this thing works and what made it pivotal, you know, mechanically and historically. I'm just like, well, then what's your part? My part is to show a book that somebody else wrote and talk aimlessly about just about nothing. Yep, so that's it. That's the 1886. I love going to the range and shooting this thing. People look at it, but nobody asks anything about it. Nobody wants to say anything. It's not enough. The military guns, people ask more about. This one, they're looking like crazy. When you shoot this thing a few times, you look left and right, all of a sudden you notice nobody's shooting, and they're all looking at it. Everybody wants to know what it is. They're pretty sure that it's iconic. They saw it on some movie when they were a kid, that a cowboy was holding, but nobody really asks anything. It's not dramatic or striking enough to be like, what is that? But everybody looks. It's got that distinctive sound. You know what I mean? That distinctive sound. And John Browning, he kicked it all off right here. This is where he started with becoming a major player. So we've looked at some of the later designs, and the single shot that I showed you recently was his first design. That's the one that made the head of a major company go, who the hell made this and where can I get more of them? And after that guy came and said, I want that, and bought the rights to it or whatever, and they were manufacturing it or whatever, this was the design where he was like, well, if you like that, you'd really dig this. And that was the beginning. And again, I'm telling you, look at it. Look at the play. Look at it. This isn't old, where like this is cut that way. You see it? It's like, here, let me hold the locking lugs and show you. Like, look, I could hold the bolt, yet still move this back and forth. See? It's part of the design. It's designed that way. But that whole motion, I can almost move this thing in an elliptical. See? All this looseness, that's what made it infallible. What could get in the way? It's almost like a dime could fall in the action and it would still close and function. There's that much room for error, because he fitted them. I'm not saying this was fitted by hand. I mean, this was made by Winchester, but Winchester's going off the designs, the dimensions, the exact specifications set forth by Browning's patent in his design. It's designed that way. It's designed to not be as precision. And I know I've held Marlin and I've used like Marlin lever actions, whatever, and they're like fine Swiss watches that how tightly they close. You could barely even see the ejection ports on them. You know what I mean? But and as far as ejection ports, this top ejection port, this is what leads me to believe that Browning was a lefty. I'm thinking Browning was a lefty. I think every single design he made, he goes, well, I can't make lefty guns because I'm not really going to make any money. So, but I'm going to make guns that I could fire as well, because I don't want to not be able to shoot my guns. So I think he made the. I think if we looked, I got to find that in history. Somebody please research that. Find out if John Browning was a lefty. I think he was. He was left-handed for sure. Because so many of his designs are ambidextrous kind of designs. It doesn't really matter whether you're right-handed or left-handed. And this nice half-cock safety is awesome. Trigger doesn't even move. It's just, it really locks it up tight. You know what I mean? And this loading gate is smooth as hell. It holds a ton of rounds. Look at how long this magazine tube is. This thing was amazing. So, yeah, you know, I wish I really could just spout off the history of this thing, but I would just be reiterating what I watched online. I mean, that's a little silly. I think a lot of the people that talk about the history online might never have fired one of these things. So I think that maybe I have a leg up where, you know, I could talk about what it actually is to experience loading it, what type of ammo to use, how nice it is. It's nice. This one, with this octagon barrel, it's heavy, so recoil is mitigated. The action is smooth as silk. You feel like you're lost in a time machine to going back to some period when you're shooting it. You really do get lost in this gun. The sights are gorgeous. They're like you know, it's just your eye picks them up, sighting down this big long barrel. I mean, look at that. It's a thing to behold. I wish I could bring these all down to the range to shoot it. Maybe one of these days we'll put that together. We'll have a Milsurp Garage powwow somewhere. We'll have a convention, Milsurp Garage convention. Anyway, until then, I'm going to go back into La La Land. I took a little hiatus. You know, the Memorial Day thing. Like to, you know, have a little break for a while. And a lot of these military guns, we enjoy the hobby, and it's easy to get lost and forget about you know, the wars that these things were used in, and you know, with just basically that you have a lot to be thankful for, and it's good to you know, just bow your hat for a while. And you know, yesterday I wanted to get back into things, and then I know that yesterday was the D-Day invasion anniversary. And I can't even imagine. I can't even put I can't even put my mind there as to what that's like. That we think we face adversity now because, you know, my starter went bad, and I got a you know, half a block walk to the nearest store to get some food. It really puts things into perspective. And here we are, June 7th, 2019. And summer's starting, so we're gonna get it out to the range. I'm gonna bring this. I'm gonna bring that last 22 that I did. What the hell was that thing again? I don't even remember. I don't even remember what it was. What was my last video on? It's been so long. That wacky 22, the Savage. Sorry, the 6A, the Savage Model 6A. We got to get that thing out there. We got to get the honed out cylinder on the, what was it, the 1903, the Winchester 03, with this whacked out ammo. We got to get this ammo out on the range. Let me see, I'll show you which one I'm going to try. I'm going to try this Western stuff. Or maybe, you know what, we'll just try what we were using to see if it still does it or not. That was this old Western Scrounger stuff. We're going to get out there with that. And we're going to see if any of that work we did with made any difference. Not sure. It still kind of looks the same, so probably not, but we'll hope for the best. And that's it. We got a lot of surprises coming, a lot of pivotal things on the way. So stay tuned. See you all later.